Hello, my name is Michael. Uh, for this assignment in Module 8, the evangelism that we worked through this whole entire term has been such a blessing to me. Um, and over the time, I really tried to, each week, I tried to speak with somebody new about the gospel. Um, Now there was a couple weeks that I went by that I actually didn't. Just life kind of got in the way, and I had forgotten for the assignment aspect. So there's a few weeks I talked to more than more than one person and whatnot. But I would say overall, out of those 8 people, there were about 3 that really stuck out to me. The first one that I'm probably going to talk about is my friend Terry. So to give you a little bit of backstory, this last school year, I was at the Masters College, well, now university, was playing college baseball there, and I chose to be done with baseball, and I moved out to Savannah, Georgia, and I was living there for the last 5 months, and I'm now back at the Masters College, hence the dorm room behind me. But when I was there, I worked in downtown Savannah for a tour company, Old Savannah Tours. I was a sales rep for them, where I stood basically just on River Street downtown and sold trolley tour tickets. It was a good first job for me, but throughout that time, I spent so much time outside and with people all the time that I was able to build a relationship with the homeless. There's a man there named Terry that I met when I first started working there, which was before this class started. The first time I met him, he was asking me for alcohol, asking me for money for alcohol, asking me for all of these things, and kind of didn't really associate myself or have too long of conversations with him at the time just because it was a new job. I didn't know how much I was able to spend my time kind of speaking to him and not get in trouble by my boss. But once I got into this class and I saw this assignment, it kind of challenged me in the sense that I should share the gospel with this guy. It's kind of sad I didn't think about it on my own at first, just being a believer, but this class, I guess, just challenged me to do so. And in that time, when when I first read the assignment, just about a week later, I saw this guy at work. He walked past me and he had a plastic bag he was carrying, and he's an older gentleman, so he whenever he would talk to me before, he would just kind of stop, kind of turn at me and just be like, hi, and just keep walking. But it was weird once I started thinking about, okay, how should I approach this? How should I share the gospel with this guy? He walked past me with a book in a bag, and I was like, what do you got there, Terry? And he's like, oh, it's my Bible. I was like, all right, well, that's cool. I didn't really think too much of it. I was in the middle of talking to some customers, so I kind of let it slide. And then the next day, he came by and he didn't have it with him. Just figured he didn't have it. And then the next day again, he didn't have it again. And normally he carries most of his stuff with him, just being homeless, not really having a place to stay. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, where'd your Bible go? He's like, well, I was reading it, and I found out if I have one sin against me, I'm going to hell. He goes, I committed that a long time ago. And I kind of chuckled, which I don't know if that was the right response, but I did. But it created this window that I could kind of get in there and talk to him. And so I was like, well, I'd love to talk to you about it, man. If you need another Bible, I'd love to bring you one. And then we can sit down, we can talk about it. We can kind of just chit chat back and forth if you have questions about the gospel, whatnot. And he was like, you'd really do that? And it was like someone never had offered him to get him anything before. I've noticed after working there, having homeless people really, to me, what I noticed is there's like 2 different groups. There's the group that's going to sit on the side of the road with a sign or with a cup asking for money, and then there's some that really don't ask for much. And this was kind of Terry. He every once in a while would ask me for water, like I said, or he'd ask me for alcohol because I guess that was something that he was struggling with at the time. But he never really asked me for money that much, not like other people. And so that kind of intrigued me about him, that he didn't really ask for much. He just was kind of himself in what he was doing. And so it was like he had never had someone offer something to him before. And so he was like, "Really, you'd get me a Bible?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so I asked him, "What kind of Bible you want?" I was curious if he had a translation he wanted, or if he needed like large print or something like that. He goes, "Oh, nothing, just something that's got all 86 or 66 books." And I was like, "Yeah, I can get you a Bible that's got all 66 books, man." So the next day, I told him to come to my booth first thing in the morning when I show up at 9 a.m. And he's like, "All right." I show up the next day, and sure he is right there waiting. And so use that as an opportunity to give him a Bible. I gave him a few things that he should read. I pointed him to the Gospels, put Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but I pointed him to Romans, so he could see the sinfulness of man, and then also grace through faith and all of that kind of stuff. Just kind of Romans kind of just lays it out, kind of the whole of the gospel throughout the book. And so told him to read that, and I gave him a little journal as well. And so then through that time, I just kind of prayed. I was just praying that the Lord would transform his heart, transform his mind. And a couple days later, I was walking after work back to my car. I parked far away from where my booth was. And he's sitting down by the river. And I walked over. And I was like, "What you doing, Terry?" And he goes, "Mike, I'm just writing a letter to God." And it honestly brought me to tears, because I saw this homeless man who his only care in the world at that point was to sit at the river and write a letter to the Lord. And I ended up finding out later, after having more and more conversations with this guy, that he has been homeless for just about, I think it was 35 years or something to that extent. He has kids. He was married at one point. And I really have been able to build a relationship with this guy. I actually, still being back in California, I still live with him, or I don't live with him. I still have conversations with him. A coworker of mine every once in a while gives me a call during the day, and it'll be Terry on the phone to talk to him. But throughout that time of this class, I really was able to, about pretty much every single day, he would come by my stand Monday through Friday, and we would talk to 10, 15 minutes. And he'd ask me questions just about man's sin, how that came about. And so I started talking to him about Adam and original sin, and then how Jesus talks about in the Gospels of how you've heard in the law that you should not murder, but if you have hate in your heart, you've committed that within your heart. And so I was kind of showing him those things, and he was seeing the sinfulness within himself. Just at that point, because he had turned his life around so much from what caused him to be homeless, which I never got all of the details about. I just never felt at a point where I should tell him that or ask him that. I didn't want to step on his shoes or make him feel like I was trying to dig too much. But yeah, it was a slow process with him that I was able to just continue to kind of just live life with him, in a sense where I just had daily encounters with him, showing the love of Christ to him here and there, being able to get food for him at times, being able to grab him water or something to drink when he was struggling, and he never asked. I had a bunch of other homeless people ask me for things, and every once in a while I would do it, but they try to take advantage of you at times. And so I think Terry maybe one time asked me for food, and he explained to me why. The place that fed them every morning is always closed on holidays. And so I worked holidays, so every holiday, once I figured this out, I would go buy him food and something to drink so he could eat. And it was crazy to me, because I see in my own life how Christ has changed me, just from where I was at and my sin, just completely dead in my trespasses, and the gospel itself, the word of God itself, along with a believer who kind of just came alongside me, less preached me the word over and over and over again. I don't know if that's just my personality or not, but just coming alongside me as a brother, to show me what it's like to live and to pursue Christ on a daily basis type of thing, is really what the Lord used to transform my heart. And so that's what I try to do with him, and it blows my mind, because by the time I left, I was moving back here to California. I had a conversation with him about where he's at, how his walk with the Lord is coming, and it's clear to me that the Lord has redeemed him. He goes from when I first meet him before this class started to caring about getting drunk and doing all of these things, to the last few days he's coming up to me with a bag of food and saying, "Hey Michael, hey, I got all the food I had back at camp. I brought it together, and I was wondering if you were hungry, if you wanted anything." And I honestly, it brought me to tears to see the change that Christ has done in a homeless man's life. His name's Terry Sneevens. I would appreciate you guys to pray for him. He's a wonderful man, 60 years old. He's got no teeth, but he has the love, the joy, and the transformed heart, which we see all throughout the gospel of someone that has been truly redeemed through the gospel. And I can hardly put into words how much it's changed me. Just seeing that change in him. To be honest, it blows my mind a little bit, because I went into it as the person that knew the gospel, to share with him things, to answer questions for him that he had, and he had plenty of questions, like I said, about original sin, about how the cross of Christ works, all of those things. But what really changed him was his continuous pursuit to read the word, and it changed him so much. He now is the most joyful man that I can even imagine. I can show you. I actually have a picture on my phone. I don't know if it'll work through the screen, but I can show you a picture of him here if I can find it really quick. Just the fact that the Lord literally changed this man's heart, just in the short time that I knew him, was crazy to me. Here's a picture of him. This is right before I left. Just a happy old man. I was like, "Terry, pose!" And then that's him. He's all excited. Got himself some nice clothes. He ended up starting to go to a church out there that they were able to give him some things that I couldn't necessarily afford, like a tent and some clothes and more money for food, just to kind of help him out. Took up a lot of time on that guy, Terry. I seriously love him to death. I look forward to talking to him whenever I get a call from my coworker that still works there. The next one, I'll spend a little bit less time on it, but he's a longtime friend of mine, Aaron McGraw. I went to high school with him, played high school baseball with him, and we have had moderate conversations about the gospel here and there, but throughout this time, it challenged me to really dig deep into what he believes. And I kind of wrote about this in that little group discussion thing we had, that I still don't think I did it correctly, but I tried. But he doesn't believe in the Lord at all. Great guy, has a heart for people. And I've been able to answer some of his questions about salvation, about the Lord, about evil in the world. And he's at a point now where he can see how it can be a possibility. He just doesn't believe it. He goes, "I don't know how it makes sense logically." And I've kind of shown to him and kind of told him, to be honest, man, unless the Lord changes your heart, it's not going to make sense. You're not going to believe it wholeheartedly. You can say you do, but you probably won't, because it's the Lord who changes us. It's the Lord who really transforms our hearts. I mean, just the whole doctrine of election. And when I told him that, he goes, now that makes sense. That makes logical sense to me. And so for me, that was interesting to see, because I feel like in the Christian world, or the evangelical world, the doctrine of election is something that most people have the biggest problem with. When for him, someone that doesn't believe it at all says that's the one thing that makes logical sense to me. And so that was interesting to learn. And so I'm still trying to continually pursuing sharing the gospel with him. I actually told him one day, because I saw how he loves to read, he loves to study, he loves people. He loves people so much that he would lay his life down for anyone, like just a stranger. And I told him, I was like, hey man, if you ever end up believing this stuff, you're going to be a pastor. He goes, I know, I've thought about it. I was like, something's moving, man. Something's moving. And so that was pretty cool to share with him. And then lastly, I think I'll talk about a friend of mine who I've played baseball with. I'll keep his identity under wraps just because he is a baseball player who has been at the Masters College. Professing believer, obviously. I mean, he's been at Masters. And I caught him in a little bit of sin, just with alcohol and stuff. And I don't ever know if he was truly saved when he was here or not. But it opened up an opportunity, because we already have a relationship, to be able to really get at his heartstrings of why he's doing what he's doing, whether he is being just disobedient, or whether he is just not a believer. And after talking to him, this all happened within the last few days, honestly. And I think I definitely think he is a believer. I think he's going through a really tough season in his walk. And so I've been able to walk through scripture with him a little bit, just to show him the joy that comes from having that relationship with Jesus Christ. And I think he does know that. I really do. I think he's just going through a tough time. So I would ask for prayer for him, and my friend Aaron McGraw, and my friend Terry. This video was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I just kind of rambled about Terry for a long time. But yeah, this class has been amazing. I really have enjoyed the discussions, the assignments, and really this project, yet not really a project. It's our calling as believers anyways. But just kind of, it was kind of just a nudge to do it when there is times where I was nervous to talk to Terry about it at the beginning, or to a long-time friend of mine that I was kind of nervous. I didn't want him to think that I was trying to, belittle him as a friend of mine in sharing the gospel with him and stuff like that. So this class is kind of just pushed me in that sense to do it. Just do it. And the Lord will provide you the things to say, as long as you are doing it for His glory. So yeah, I'm very thankful. It was really cool. I think out of the 8 people, those are my 3 main. I shared the gospel with a few of my coworkers, Kelly, Cody, and Chris. And then I shared the gospel with a couple of my ex-girlfriend's friends, Nate and Kim. I was able to share it with them, and then also Madison as well. Those were a little less I would say, got into detail or got as far as I got with these three people that I spoke of, especially Terry, just because I had daily encounters with Terry every day. And I really do believe that the Lord did save him, that he is a Christ follower now. I believe he is redeemed just by seeing the transformation in his life over the time. He doesn't drink anymore. I've seen him sharing the gospel with other homeless men and women, and it's just been an amazing experience for me to see. So this video is getting pretty long. We're at 20 minutes. But thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed the class, and I've enjoyed working with all of you. Take care. God bless.